A hand for turning on his microphone. Good job. All right, that ruins everything. Let's just pray and get out of here. Happy Mother's Day, moms. I know it's been said already 20 times, but we do want to make sure that you feel special today because you are special. And friendly reminder to dads and children today to avoid asking the question, what's for dinner, to your mom. We want to do that. Did you know that Mother's Day is actually the busiest day of the year for restaurants? That probably doesn't surprise us. Did you know that Mother's Day, $35 billion will be spent on Mother's Day? There are more phone calls made on Mother's Day than any other day of the year. Mother's Day is the third largest greeting card holiday behind Christmas and Valentine's Day. And then lastly, did you know that over 100 countries, actually not just the United States, but over 100 countries celebrate Mother's Day? And in fact, in Ethiopia, they do it over the course of 3 days. And maybe that's a good idea. Maybe one day's not enough. I don't know. But we're here to celebrate moms. And we're in this Celebrate series that we started last week. And obviously, moms have an significant, instrumental, monumental mark that they've left on us and a difference that they make. Let's just start here. Genesis 3:20 says Adam named his wife Eve, that she would become the mother of all the living. So we're not here without a mom, and all of us need a mom, and all of us have a mom or had a mom. But I also want to say this, my disclaimer is that, as Joy shared earlier, I recognize that this can be a difficult day for many people who have maybe lost mothers recently, or maybe some of you that have wanted to be moms, but that hasn't happened for a myriad of different reasons, or maybe that you have a mom, but maybe she wasn't the best mom, or whatever. And so this can be a difficult day, this can be a heavy day, and yet, if that describes you and you're still here, I think that's pretty cool, because it just demonstrates something about you and your character, that I'm going to continue to go to church, worship my God, honor my God, and hopefully bless moms in the world. And that's what we want to do, all right? So anyway, we want to recognize, we want to honor all the good moms today. We love moms. We're thankful for you moms. We want to be a blessing to you today. After all, if mama's not happy, nobody's happy. And I think we all know that. We're going to look at a famous text of Scripture. It's the last proverb in the book of Proverbs, found in chapter 31, and it's this kind of poem, really, that describes what an ideal mother looks like, an ideal wife looks like. It's a passage of womanhood, and it's really beautiful. It's really compelling, and it's found in Proverbs chapter 31. We're going to start in verses 10. Move all the way through the rest of the chapter. There's 22 verses, which is interesting because there are 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. Why is that interesting? Well, this is an acrostic poem. Every one of these verses starts with the next letter, the consecutive letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Of course, you wouldn't see that in English, but this is poetry, and this is a proverb. And let's understand that a proverb is different than a promise. Are you with me? A proverb is like how to live wisely. A proverb understands the way that the world is, the complexities of this world, that it's the challenges of this world, that this world is not perfect and ideal. And so within that construct, how are we to live? And so we need wisdom. Again, these aren't promises, but they are proverbs. And we see this beautiful picture in this poem of womanhood in Proverbs 31:1. Now, here's another disclaimer, is that the way that she is portrayed is pretty extraordinary. I mean, she has a lot going on. She takes care of her children, and she's a great wife, and she feeds the poor, and she buys real estate, and she's opened up her own textile industry. She dresses fashionably, and she has toned arms, and she's just an impressive person. And the temptation, I guess, is we could just sort of look at that and go, man, that's a high bar. I could never reach that, and I'm not that, and I'll never be that. And the point of this poem is not to discourage you. The point of this poem is not to set this impossible set of expectations upon you where it feels like a burden. Rather, instead, it's to be this pathway of wisdom that presents a type of person. This is what this mom, this wife, and this woman would look like, right, in the ancient world, but even today. And so we're looking for principles. We're understanding this is an idealized picture. And so I don't want anybody leaving today feeling just discouraged. That's not the goal. It's to look to the Lord and be encouraged as we read his word. And so we're going to look at 5 qualities of a wise mom from this text. Let's pick it up in verse 10, Proverbs 31. It says, a wife of noble character or of excellent character. It's the same word used to describe Ruth, if you know her story. Somebody of excellent character. And then the author goes on to say, who can find? In other words, she's quite rare. I mean, you're not going to find this woman around every corner. And I mean, this is an impressive person. And she says, and then it says, she is worth far more than rubies, like more than jewels, some translations read. And so, in other words, there are things that are beneficial about money and jewels and gold and these kinds of things, but a woman like this far exceeds the value of all of that, all right? So this is somebody who's rare, somebody who's beautiful in terms of her character, somebody who has exceptional character, an exceptional reputation. And for those of you who are married to, or maybe you have a mom, you know somebody in your life that looks a little like this, I would say, it's incumbent upon us to say, thank you, God, Amen. This is a beautiful picture. And so, anyway, one of the interesting things in this text, verse 10, it says a wife of noble character. Well, that word noble is the same word that's translated as valor or strength. It's a word that describes a warrior. So this might sound strange, but the first quality of a wise woman is that a good mom is a warrior. A good mom is a warrior. What do I mean by that? What is she carrying around a sword? Is she, what's this all about, right? Well, the proverb is saying you want to have a warrior for a wife and a warrior for a mom. And here's why, because life is a battle, is it not? Life is difficult. There are hardships in life, and you want a woman like this by your side, contending for you and standing with you. Not somebody who's opposed to you. Now, I know many popular songs, obviously they emphasize the internal character and attributes and virtues of a woman and all their philanthropy, and they work with nonprofits and all these kinds of things, right? In modern pop music, right? Is that what no, that's not at all what we read about. We read only about maybe her external beauty or something like that. But guess what? In the ancient Middle East, poems or songs were also written a lot like they are today, focusing not on the inside, but on the outside. And so I mention that because what we're reading here is actually quite new and different and would feel radical to these believers, to those who belong to the Lord. Let's keep going here. In verse 11, it says, her husband has full confidence in her. He trusts her implicitly and lacks nothing of value, lacks nothing of gain. This is actually also warrior language because the word here for value or gain could be like the spoils of war, the treasures of war. She lacks nothing of value. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. And don't you know that the people that can hurt us the most are the people that are closest to us, right? And so it's really, really important that we're careful with those who we are most close to. And so her husband trusts her, has full confidence in her. He knows that she's not going to stab him in the back. He knows that even when she's not with him, she's got his back, She's there to support and encourage and uplift, knowing that her husband is far from perfect. She's strong, she's capable, but she's not competing with her husband. She's complimenting or being a good teammate, a good partner with him, right? And so consequently, he has full confidence in her. So number one, a good mom is a warrior. And some of you have a mom like that. She's strong, she's sturdy, she's got convictions, she's the kind of person with deeply rooted character, all right? Verse 13, he continues, the author says, she selects wool and flax and works with eager hands. And I love this next part. She is like the merchant ships, bringing her food from afar, so she knows when to prepare a meal and when to order out Chinese, or whatever. And then she gets up while it's still night and provides food for her family and portions for her female servants, right? And she considers a field and buys it, as you all do, right? And so she's done her due diligence. She's like thinking about, man, that field over there, I really want it, but I don't know if it's the right time. Do we have enough money? Is it a good soil? Is it okay? Then she buys it, and out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard. So she's shrewd and sharp and industrious. And then verse 17, she sets about her work vigorously. This is not somebody who's lazy. This is actually also warrior language, by the way. Other translations read she girds her loins, so like she's able to run, so to speak. But she's quick at pace. She works vigorously and swiftly. Her arms are strong. I told you, toned arms are right. It's in the Bible right here. Her arms are strong for her tasks, and she sees that her trading is profitable. All her work pays off, in other words, and her lamp does not go out at night. Let me just pause here, because to many of us, we think, it's because she's up working all the time, and then she's up late, and then she gets up early. So this is a lady, she's getting about 3 hours of sleep, and who can do that, And actually, I don't think that's what this is saying. You see, oil in the ancient world was very expensive, and you wouldn't burn it unnecessarily, although if you had the resource to, you would, because where there is light, there is usually safety. And so in protection of her family and herself and her, all those around her, the wealthy would have their oil lamps burning throughout the night for protection. And so I think that's really what it's speaking toward here, and her lamp does not go out at night. All right, verse 19, in her hand she holds as we do, the distaff. Do you guys remember doing that? Like the other day, I was just holding the distaff. It's actually, what is that? It's a stick that's used for spinning thread, okay? And that makes sense. This next line, and grasps the spindle with her fingers. So a good mom is a warrior, but secondly, a good mom is a worker. That's not hard to see. She is productive. She is diligent. She is competent. She is efficient. She is skillful. She is industrious. We're starting to feel like failures at this point. She's resourceful. She's making clothes, selling them, buying fields, planting vineyards. She's got a textile industry going on. She takes raw material, adds her know-how, adds her creative artistry and her energy to it, and makes something beautiful and beneficial to her family and to the community. In other words, this is the idea of what it means to cultivate, right? To take raw material, to add your energy and your creativity and your excellence to it and create something beautiful out of it. But I also want to caution us in this way, that we don't only think of work as our careers. Understand that, yes, a career is part of our work, but it's not the only thing we do. Those of you who are retired, do you continue to do work after you retire from your career? Answer. How about moms? If you're a stay-at-home mom, you don't have maybe a career, is there any work involved in parenting? Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. When you're gone and husband takes over and trust me, he's looking at his watch, waiting for your return so he can go back to his easier job, which is his career, okay? Because being a mom is hard. It's exhausting from what I've been told. And it's difficult, right? In fact, if we skip to verse 27, it says this, she watches over the affairs of her household. I love that language. She's a protector. She's a homemaker and does not eat the bread of idleness. She makes a house a what? A home. She tends to the home. Walk into some people's homes and they don't necessarily, doesn't mean they're rich or whatever, but things are placed just so. It smells good. There's not dirty socks under the couch. It's been vacuumed more than whatever. And a husband can do that, or a wife can do that. But there's this sense in which she takes pride in the place where her family dwells. It's really interesting, right? She prioritizes this place of warmth and stability, and she's working so hard. For years, my wife was a stay-at-home mom, but it wasn't because she had to, or it wasn't because, what's wrong with you? Can't get a job? No, she could get a job. She has her master's degree. She got straight A's in school, she's, her earning potential way exceeds mine, okay, if you want to know the truth. And she is bright and highly skilled and a self-starter and responsible and all these things. She's conscientious, but she was able to stay at home, and she wanted to stay at home when our kids were young. Later, she went back to work as a teacher. But I promise you, during that season, she worked very, very hard because being a mom is a lot of work. Moms are always tired. This is the way it starts. You go into labor in the afternoon, you give birth at 3 a.m., and then you don't sleep for 18 years. That is the equation, okay? That's basically what's happening here. Grandparents, you ever watch your grandkids? Yeah, it's exhausting. You're like, I don't remember it being so tiring. It must be because we're older. No, it's always been exhausting. It just always has been, right? And by the way, and I've shared this before, but studies show that grandparents who babysit live longer than those who don't. But anyway, and that's a little side note. But just for your own life, I'm sharing that with you. But kids, you're feeding them, you're dressing them, you're picking up after them, you're teaching them, you're answering their questions. Usually it's a one-word question, which is why, and and now it's you just Google it, sweetie, just Google it. And even if they're 3, Google it, just to let them figure it out. But anyway, I love this. It also demands tremendous patience to be a good parent, to be a good mom. One mom wrote a note for her daughter to give to her teacher, and it read, "My daughter will be late to school because she can zip her jacket by herself." It just took her 20 minutes or whatever, right? But moms are tired. They're working hard. Why? Because kids are messy. And they're jumping in puddles and playing in the dirt and knocking stuff over. And let's see, if I throw this harder, what happens? And they're eating glue and smashing bugs and passing gas. Anyway, they're licking random things, and they're just smelling and tasting and throwing, and they're exploring, right? They're discovering, they're learning, and they're testing their limits and all this. I remember when our daughter was young, she was just very little, and she started screaming. We ran up to her bedroom. What's wrong, sweetie? Well, she had taken the little barrette and swallowed it. Yeah. And we were then freaking out and never did find it, but she also can't get through airport security. It just drives me crazy, like it's still in there. But anyway, so kids, but they're messy and they get bloody noses. And when they paint, it's like you cover them with all kinds, tarps and all stuff, right? And since kids are messy, moms are always cleaning, and it's nonstop until it stops. And on that day, they collect their things and they move out of the house. And 20 years or maybe more of you investing your life into that child, and in a moment, in a day, they're gone. And sometimes they're gone without even being particularly grateful. I mean, they say it, but there's no tear in the eye. I mean, come on. But there's tears in your eyes. And I love this saying. I thought of it often when I was a youth pastor, is, sometimes we need to plant trees under which we will never sit. And that's part of parenting. We don't expect anything much in return from our kids. We just care for them day after day because we love them and we want the best for them, even if it costs us a great deal. And even as they get old, we're there for them, and we walk through them into difficult things. Maybe injury, maybe sickness, maybe divorce, maybe who knows what. Painful, painful things. There's mom. Steady, I'll get to that in just a moment. Oh, number 3. I lost track. Where are we at, church? Okay, number 3 is this. A good mom this sounds weird, is an elevator. I don't mean the mechanical device that, elevates you. I mean a person that elevates you. And a good mom, that's what she does. She lifts others up. She edifies. She builds up. That's what an elevator is, one that raises or lifts something up. You know that song, You Raise Me Up. Okay, let's not sing it ever again. But anyway, so that's what I tell Joy every morning, So I can stand on mountains, sweetie, and I'm walking on your shoulders, and whatever it says. But anyway, so everyone has the ability to raise somebody else up. And this is what good moms do. They have this way of bringing out the best in others. And they support, they encourage, they lift up, they build up, they elevate. In verse 20, it says this, so she opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. She's helping others that are hurting. She's lifting them up, elevating them. Verse 21, when it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet, which was an expensive material, kind of double layered. We'll get to that in just a moment. Verse 22, and she makes coverings for her bed. I just go to Target. But anyway, and then she is clothed in fine linen and purple. You know what? I kind of like this part. She's fashionable. She takes care of herself. She desires to look nice. She knows that somehow the reputation of others in her family are also connected to her. She wants to look good for them. It's not that she's vain or anything like that, but she looks people that are like that, they just look put together. Not all the time, whatever, but they're put together, they take care of themselves, and in taking care of themselves, guess who else they can take care of? Others. There's something to that, you guys. And we say things like there's this vernacular in our culture is like, man, he is just a mess. And usually when we say that, we don't mean, and he's so helpful for everyone else. We mean, he can't even take care of himself. And there's something about her dressed in fine linen and purple. And not everybody can afford the nice things. It's not about the money. It's about taking care of yourself with what you have. And in so doing, you can elevate others. Look at verse 23. Her husband is respected at the city gate where he takes his seat among the elders of the land. So who else is elevated? Her husband. That's how I feel with my wife. The husband's reputation is connected to the reputation of his wife. I know we live in a very independent the Declaration of Independence, independent country, but even the West Coast is extra independent. We do our own thing and keep to ourselves and barely know the names of our neighbors oftentimes. We're just very independent out here, but in so doing, we often miss how our influence affects others. And so her husband's reputation is connected to her reputation and vice versa. And this is how it works. It doesn't mean all the time we don't need to overstate that, but there's something to that. He makes her look good, she makes him look good. I think you get the idea here. Because people assess the kind of person we are not only by how we carry ourselves, but how the people we are with carry themselves. Our friends, our family. And so she's an elevator. She's influential. Speaking of influence, I love this quote by Hannah Smith, this Christian author in the 19th century, the 1800s. She wrote this: to be a mother is the greatest vocation in the world. No being has a position of such great honor and influence. She holds in her hands the destiny of nations. For to her is necessarily committed the making of the nation's citizen. Tell me about, the greatest leaders of all time. Guess what? They all had a mom. And that mom influenced them for good or for evil, but tremendous power in that sense. And influence is the point. Now, back in verse 21, remember the part where it snows, but she's not freaked out because they're dressed in scarlet? Remember that? So this is like a good clothing, double thickness. In other words, she's prepared for cold weather. And that's the fourth thing, is that a good mom is a pillar. She's, how do we say this? She's poised. Let me say it the other way. She's not hysterical. When she receives hard news, she doesn't freak out. Now, there are days she needs to raise her voice or get somebody's attention or whatever, but she's not driven to being just overly emotional where nobody can really trust her with her feelings. No, this is a woman who's strong and unafraid and prepared, and it's going to be okay because, I've been preparing for this, and you're going to be fine, and I've thought this through. And there's just a calmness, an assuredness to her that's really profound and beautiful and comforting. And she feels safe to be with. She feels safe. Last one, so she's a warrior, a worker, an elevator, a pillar. The last one is just simply she's a teacher. Look at verse 26. She speaks with wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue. It doesn't mean that everything she says is right, or she never makes a mistake, or everything she says is so wise, but it just means she's the kind of person in which wisdom just sort of comes out of her. And let's face it, moms, for better or for worse, more often than not, you'll probably be the one who's teaching your kids during their formative years. Now, it's not always the case, but generally speaking. And this is really important to understand this role of teacher, because when we think of teacher in our culture, we're usually thinking of someone else who instructs, someone else who imparts, someone else who, teaches our kids how to research or how to write or, history or all these kinds of things, right? I was thinking about my teachers growing up. Okay, I still remember. So first grade teacher was Mrs. Hungerford. Love that name. Second grade teacher was Mrs. Kanakoa. She had the longest fingernails, and everybody was afraid of her. Fourth grade teacher was Mrs. Johnson. Fifth grade teacher was Mrs. Small. Sixth grade teacher was Mr. Anderson. And then I got to junior high, middle school, and everything's jumbled from there. Oh, wait, I forgot one. Third grade. I forgot who it was. So that's why I didn't mention third grade. But so I guess we do. But anyway, think about the teachers you had growing up and their influence in your life. There is not a greater teacher than your parents, than your mom in your life. She's constantly teaching. She's constantly imparting. She's constantly giving you good advice. Doesn't mean she's perfect or whatever she says is right, but she gives you, if she's a Christian, a godly woman, she gives you godly advice. It just comes out of her. JFK's mother, Rose Kennedy, said this: "I looked on child rearing not only as a work of love and duty, but as a profession that was fully as interesting and challenging as any honorable profession in the world, and one that demanded the best that I could bring it." I love that. It's demanded, it's worth the very best. Even with your imperfection, you even get over your own imperfections. You don't even wallow in your own, you're not perfect, but you just bring the best that you can. Moms are good teachers. All right. Well, it's really a beautiful picture of this godly, wise woman, wife, mom, somebody who's mature in character. But if you could go to her, this Proverbs woman, and say, "You know what? I want to be like you. Tell me what to do." This is the kind of woman who is not going to give you a technique, is not going to say, "You need to buy this planner because it just really saves me." Not that there's anything wrong with planners. You can tell I'm not much of a planner. But anyway, so she's not going to point you to the latest book with like 7 tips on how to be a great mom, even though those can be helpful. or she's not going to point you to, you got to go to this conference or listen to this podcast, whatever it is. Here's what she's going to tell you. You want to be a good mom, you need to look to God. And you need to look to God. There are no shortcuts. You cannot cram the character that you need to be the mom that God's calling you to be. You've got to look to God. You've got to pursue God. The scriptures say, fear God and you'll find wisdom. Because wisdom comes from God. Let me just conclude the proverb. Proverb 31, it says this, verse 28, her children arise and call her blessed. Isn't that what happened this morning? Your kids got up and they just, maybe every morning they do that to you. Moms, your kids do that? They just get up and, oh, blessed, whatever. But not just her kids, her husband also. And I love that we think of just praising God, but praising her. You are special. You are fill in the blank. He praises her. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. I mean, it's not a competition, but if it were, you would be way ahead, kind of thing. Verse 30, charm is deceptive, and don't we know? Beauty is fleeting. Because even when they do the injections, that's another message. All right, so, but a woman who fears the Lord, this is the right thing to do. A woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Honor her. I know we don't live in much of an honor culture, but Christians should honor godly moms. Honor her for all her hands have done, and let her works bring her praise at the city gate. A good mom is to be blessed and celebrated and praised and honored. So how do we do this? Really quickly, and I'll wrap up. Number one, respect mothers by admiring their sacrifices. It's just slowing down long enough to go, you know what? Pretty much every day of my life, when my mom woke up, I was one of the first things on her mind. And that's the way it is for, like I said, 20 years, maybe 30, maybe 40. And she made sacrifice after sacrifice after sacrifice. She's willing to do whatever it took to put me in a position where I could maybe, if a Christian mom, I could know God and I could be successful in life. That I knew how to handle adversity and failure and hardship and when I struck out or whatever. She would say this, I'm willing to sacrifice myself for your benefit. You know what that sounds like to me? It's the definition of a hero. Because in every DC or Marvel movie, what does a hero do? A hero is willing to sacrifice themselves for the benefit of others. This is what a mom does. And so all I'm saying is step one, if you want to celebrate your mom today, respect the fact and admire the fact that she has made tremendous sacrifices for you. Even though, I get it, we remember those 8 things that she did wrong, But the truth is, day after day, she was faithful. She's a Christian. She prayed for you. She did her best. And for those areas of misstep, let's be gracious. Let's forgive. How about that? That seems like a Christian concept. Let's move past the past and maybe start something new. Some of you might need to start something new with your mom. Something good. Secondly, is honor mothers by speaking well of them in public. Now, in private too, Mom, you're so great. But in public, Mom, you're so wonderful. I think this is important because when you do it in public, you're attaching your own reputation to your words. In other words, you can flatter somebody quietly, privately, but to do so publicly, you better mean it. And there's something beautiful and powerful. In fact, another translation of Proverbs 31:31 says this, she should be be praised in public for what she has done. She should be praised in public. Encouragement is great. You know what's even greater? Public encouragement. So everybody get on Facebook today and say 3 things about how special your mom is. Let the world know. Number 3, bless mothers by listening to their wisdom. Just really quickly, Proverbs 1:7 says this: the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. Who despises wisdom and instruction? Foolish people do. Verse 8, listen, my son, to your father's instruction, and listen to this, and do not forsake, do not neglect, do not reject your mother's teaching. The most disrespectful thing you can do to your mom is to reject the wisdom imparted from her into you and live a foolish life that will crush her. It'll break her heart. She will always love you. She'll always be there for you. But if you're living foolishly, the best way that you can honor your mom is to live an honorable life. Then maybe she'll feel like all the sacrifices that she made for you meant something. You say, you're just trying to make me feel guilty. Kind of. A little bit. Proverbs 10:1 says, a wise son brings joy to his father, but a foolish son brings grief to his mother. Last one here, how can we celebrate moms? Is just praise. Praise mothers who are noble and virtuous. She's rare. Remember, we read that. She's valuable. She's dignified. She's trustworthy. She's commendable. She's productive. She's industrious. Toned arms. She's generous. She's strong but kind. Classy but caring. Fashionable but not vain. She's gentle, but she's not a pushover. She's a warrior. She's a worker. She's an elevator. She's a pillar. She's a teacher. Do you have a mom like that? A little bit like that? Then understand how blessed you are. And thank her. Thank her for being your mom. So to the mothers here today, here's what I want you to receive. We recognize you. We honor you. We praise you, your virtuous characteristics, and we are so thankful for you. And God sees as well, and God is pleased with you. There is no greater responsibility in all the world than to be a good mom, a godly mom. Many of you are good and godly moms. Thank you. Last thought. As wonderful as a good and godly mom is, and as profound as their sacrificial love is, there is a greater love. It's the love from which that mom draws her love. It's God's love. In fact, the scriptures say this in Isaiah 49, can a mother forget her nursing child? What do you guys think? This is kind of a rhetorical question. Can a mom forget her nursing child? I mean, sometimes we leave the car seat on top of the car. Okay, granted. No, she's not going to forget her nursing child. It says, can she feel no love for the child she has born? Rhetorical. The answer is, of course she's going to feel love, right? And then it says this, but even if it were possible, God says, I would not forget you. So as deep and as amazing and as cherished as a mom's love is, know this, God's love is even more profound. It's more secure. It's more faithful. And the interesting thing is, as we connect ourselves to Him and His love overflows from us into the lives of others. Let's pray together. Father, thank you so much for just your word and the wisdom and the instruction that it gives us. Lord, I just pray, one, I want to thank you for the good moms in the room. I pray that there would be a spirit of encouragement as people leave, knowing that your word is not to defeat, but to lift up. And God, may you honor, find ways to bless the moms who do such a good job. God, help us to be appreciative of them, to thank you and thank them for their many sacrifices, to praise them, to honor them, to bless them, to find ways to do so, to not be selfish, to not be stubborn, and to not live foolishly, but to live in such a way where our moms feel like the sacrifices they've made have been worth it. So God, thanks for our moms, and more than that, thanks for being a God of infinitely wonderful and deep and profound love. You are gracious to us. We love you. In Jesus' name. Everyone said? Amen. We're going to close with a song, and so I'm going to invite you to stand up right now. We're going to sing a song, and then we'll get you out of here.